hard that I tried cleaning that thing, I could not get it clean. I scrubbed on it and did everything I could to try to get the blood and stuff off of the weapon. I grew up fairly poor here in southeast Iowa. My dad was an over-road truck driver. My mom was a stay-at-home mom for the majority of my early childhood. We moved around a lot. My parents, they split when I was 8, and then going into my teenage years, I started to act out. I was getting bad grades in school. I was getting in fights. I was drinking. I was smoking cigarettes and smoking weed. I didn't really have any direction. I became friends with one of the recruiters, got along great with him, and I just kind of made the decision to enlist. After high school, I kind of bounced around from orders to orders in the National Guard. I'd go out, I'd pretty much spend my check over a weekend and do it all over again the next weekend. I had a friend that he gave me a call one night and said he was gonna come over, and he was bringing this single girl with him, and her name was Melissa. In December that year, after dating for a few months, I asked her to marry me. In 2004, I was working construction, and we found out that Melissa was pregnant. So in December, we were able to come home on leave for Christmas, and during that time frame, Melissa gave birth to our first son, Peyton. I got to spend a couple days with him, but shortly after that, I was on a plane for Iraq. So I met Brian and Seth shortly before our deployment. Brian always had a smile on his face. He was a great guy. That dude was a born leader. Seth was also a great guy. He was always smiling. The dude loved his guns, which made me and him pretty good friends because I was the armorer, I was the gunsmith. So after a short time, we got orders to move further north into Iraq. They had a lot of activity when it come to roadside bombs, as well as sniper attacks and suicide bombs. Part of the advance party on that mission were my friends Brian and Seth. On their way up to our Ramadi, their vehicle was struck by a roadside bomb. The morality of war, like, really hit me. Like, up to that point, we hadn't encountered any combat. We hadn't dealt with any loss, like whether it was friendly or foe. It was really tough to accept that, and I had to clean their weapons. No matter how hard that I tried cleaning that thing, I could not get it clean. I scrubbed on it and did everything I could to try to get the blood and stuff off of the weapon. My lieutenant actually happened to be walking by my bunk. I looked up at him, and he could tell something wasn't right. He said, "Hey, Brockett, you doing all right?" And I said, "No, sir, I'm not." And I raised up my hands like this, and I'm like, I showed him my blood-covered hands, and I'm like, I can't get it off. I had a lot of guilt. I wondered why my friends died and I didn't. I just didn't feel right. Melissa made a comment to me when we were talking on the phone that she said that she was praying for me. And I told her, don't pray for me, because I wanted no part of her God. In December of 2005, our deployment ended. I was a different person. I kind of felt like the Army was saying, give us your M16, here's a baby. So, turn off the soldier, turn on the happy family man, you're a daddy now. And it was like too much at first. Couldn't shut it off. I essentially just became a functioning drunk. When I would sleep, I'd have dreams about him. So I'd hang out with them in my dreams, and then I'd wake up and live with the reality of them being gone all over again. I just felt like I had no purpose anymore. I know I had a family, but for whatever reason, it wasn't a priority to me. When I was deployed, Melissa started to attend a local church. So when I came home from Iraq, it was still part of her Sunday routine. There was a time when Peyton decided that he wanted to stay home with Daddy instead of going to church with Melissa. I didn't really feel it was fair to Peyton to do that. So I decided to be supportive and go to church. I didn't really get anything out of the sermons. And you had the fact that I was more than likely hungover from the night before. I just left there most of the time more annoyed than when I went in. My mom had called me at one point, and she said that my younger brother Tom was going to be giving his testimony at Harmony Bible Church. And she had asked if we wanted to come. I wanted to be supportive of my brother, so we went. When we got there, it was like full of just loving people. And we just kind of felt like, like the sermon, it was something that, I understood. So when we left there, my language was different back then, but I remember telling Melissa, if you're going to drag my butt to church, can we at least come out here where I can understand what they're talking about, and so we don't have to fight the kids in the stupid pews. One Sunday, the church was doing communion and asked folks to come forward and pick up the elements. I felt like a fake, a phony, a fraud, like everybody else around me. They were feeling happy, and I had none of that in my life. I went forward to live my lie again, and the weight of it just hit me. I know that the Holy Spirit was finally opening my eyes to who God is. And I knew that it was time for me to give my life to Jesus. And it really honestly felt like it was like I was leaving for Iraq. I knew that the old Bo was about to die. And Melissa looked at me and smiled and said, okay. I turned, and I remember praying, God, I don't know what you have in store for my life, but I'm giving it all to you. So in 2013, I was able to renew my vows with my wife, Melissa. I've had the privilege of baptizing her and Peyton and Brooklyn. And I've been able to turn the resentment that I had for the people that killed my friends into praying for their salvation. While we started to attend Harmony, I was still an unsaved sinner. I was still had a marriage in shambles, and I was still a functioning drunk. So God has brought a kid from a broken home, an alcoholic war vet, into a relationship with him. And it's all because of grace.